Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us at Toy Fair University. Next up, we have the Art of Versatility with Carlos Mendoza. Carlos?
Thank you, everybody. So I want to say thank you, everybody, for being here. Today we're going to talk about the art of versatility. And this topic is a little bit kind of special to me because when I talk about this, it's going to be a little bit more of like kind of my story a little bit. And hopefully it inspires you guys. How many of you guys here are illustrators? Do you have illustrators in the room? Or toy designers? Illustrators, toy designers? So this is going to kind of I'm going to talk through this almost like as though you're looking at it through the lens of my career. And I've been doing this for over 20 years. And I'm originally an illustrator. An illustrator. This is pretty much my art. The reason I'm showing you guys this is because this type of artwork has opened up a lot of avenues for me. And the avenues that I've kind of explored has been through toys, games. I've been doing arcade machines, animatronics. So a lot of the stuff that I'm working on right now is based on a lot of this. So this has kind of been the Trojan horse that's allowed me to work on a lot of different industries. As you can see, I don't do game art like any Blizzard art or anything like that. So a lot of this is really just done for fun. But sometimes people ask me, do I work for these kind of industries? And I really don't. So the good thing about it is like I do this for fun. And the style that I adapted kind of allows me to open up other avenues in toys, arcades, and things like that. So today we're going to talk about versatility. And what is versatility? So versatility is the ability to adapt or to be adapted in many different functions or activities. So for me, that's basically what we're going to talk about today is what happened in my career. Versatility allowed me to open up a lot of doors. And so sometimes when you really look at your careers, you sometimes tend to be almost like one-sided, where you start going into one path, and that's exactly where you go, and that's where you end up, right? So one of the things I started doing, and I started noticing really early on in my career, was that when I was in toys, I noticed that there was like these layoffs that kept happening, and there was like constant changes and things, and I always I couldn't stand the way that made me feel as a husband, as a father. It was very difficult because a lot of my friends were in the same boat, and so sometimes I was like, how do we navigate that together when we're all in the same boat sinking, like, you know? So, but the problem was that we were all in the same industry, right? So the thing with the industry is like, you know, once you just hone in into one thing, that's what you're into it. That's it. You know what I mean? So versatility allowed me to start drawing differently. I started adapting new styles and really doing things that I really enjoy to do. So one of the things that, I think it messed her up. So one of the things I wanted to share with you guys is two things about versatility. So versatility has two parts to it. Very, very important, by the way. So one of the things that I want to talk to you guys today is about networking. So with versatility, you have a network. So network is basically to expand, connect, work with your network to open up new opportunities. So one of the things that I started noticing about network is that when I was in toys, I noticed that my network was very limited. So I was only introduced to like toy people and toy industries and toy companies. And the problem with that was that when everybody went through layoffs or they went through some hardships or hard times, they were calling me for work and I'm calling them. Like we were just like, where do we go from here? And so I started noticing that as a pattern in our industry, and it happens pretty often. So being the fact that I love to draw and I love to do different things, I was like, you know what, there has to be more than this. So one of the things about our industry is like what I call threading and a web. So there's web networking, and then there's thread networking. So when you thread something, a thread is basically where you just honing into one particular area. So that thing is just one-sided. It's just one, you and them, right? Like our industry. But with webbing, what I started doing is I started actually branching out to other things, like even out of the country. I started going into other countries, doing like conventions and things like that. So I actually broadened out my network. So I didn't just go to toys. I didn't want to just be in toys. So I started going into video games. I started going into inflatables and collectibles and animatronics. And so once I started adapting that, my network started getting wider, and then that actually became a little bit more easier for me to go through certain things, because once you kind of go through the toy world, it becomes a little bit difficult because that's all you know. But when I started branching out, it became a little bit easier because I started reaching out to my network, which were a lot broader than just toys. And so that made my versatility grow. And then the other part of it is growth, right? So one of the things I started to avoid was staying at one place for very, very long. One of the things that I started noticing in my career was that when I stayed somewhere, I didn't grow very much. It stayed very kind of stagnant. There wasn't very much for me to do. And then you kind of start seeing everything so mundane and so, it's the same all the time. So what I started to do is I started evaluating the places that I started working at, right? So I started looking at the place and saying, how does this place work for me? So is this helping me grow my career? Is this expanding my growth, my knowledge in the industry? So one of the things that I started telling students was, when I started teaching them, is that, when you're in a location like let's say you work for a big company like Mattel or something like that, you end up just working as a designer. But the problem with that is, like, you end up just staying there as a designer. But you might want to I started explaining to them that it's important for you to start learning about production and the manufacturing side of things, so that it broadens up your understanding of your designs, and that way it gives you a little bit more value to what you bring to the table than just literally just drawing, right? So one of the things that I started expanding with me is I had friends that kept coming to me and they were asking me questions about, how do you get to work with other companies? How do you expand to other companies? How do you start talking to them? And so what I ended up doing was I started talking to other people from other studios. I started reaching out to them on LinkedIn. I started talking to just friends in other areas, going to conventions. And when I started traveling, I started really opening up grounds for other things, not just the toy world, but I actually expanded it out to arcades. I started going into movie design stuff. And so then my network started getting really broader. So when I talk about my network, there's a little bit of, trust that gets built with your network, right? So it's not just about you just designing stuff and then all of a sudden you're you're well connected now. It's really about trust. So when you start designing for these companies or designing for your network, it becomes a little bit more about reliability, right? So they come to you and they start saying about, Carlos can design graffiti stuff, right? Carlos can do creatures and monsters and toys and inflatables and so on. So then my network started getting a little bit more broader. So then now it just didn't become about toys anymore. So now my whole career became about versatility. And so versatility was what saved my career. It's what really allowed me to actually expand a little more. And now I get to choose projects, what I want to work on. One of the key things too, I had a friend of mine from Naughty Dog, and he was asking me if I would do some graffiti for a new game. And of course I jumped on it. I was really excited about it. And so at that time I was working on Disney princess stuff, and I was working on the Naughty Dog stuff, and I was doing some animatronics things for horror. And that kind of expanded a little bit more to a broader sense. So now my portfolio started expanding a little bit further. So now it wasn't just toys, but I actually started becoming a little bit more versatile. So my designs went from designing graffiti stuff for Subway Surfer stuff, from SpongeBob to Killer Clowns. Again, you get inflatables, collectibles, plushes, and then I graduated over to animatronics. So I was doing horror, and then I started doing Christmas stuff. So the versatility started expanding, right? So then it becomes a little bit easier for me to adapt to whatever clients or customers come about. So now I'm no longer restricted to just toys. Now my friends can call me, or I can call them and say, hey guys, listen, I got this extra project I'm working on. It's a little outside your wheelhouse. And so then we started working on some more versatile projects. In recent times, I had a friend of mine, and I asked him if I could tell this story. He was cool about it, but he was working in the movie industry, and he was working on some very big projects. And once the movie projects ended, he had nowhere to go. And this is the topic we were talking about, is really just about how do you expand your portfolio so that you don't get caught in those situations where you're just that one-trick pony where people are like, oh, you only do this. So in my industry, growing up in the industry, I noticed that there was some people that had consulted with me, and they were telling me that you should be kind of a master of one thing. I disagree with that. I don't think you should be a master of that. I think you should have a little bit of versatility in your pocket, because you never know when that industry that you're a master of is going to take a dive, and then you're going to be stuck not knowing where else to go. So versatility became very, very important to me. Designing was also a part of my, I guess, my drive, because I love drawing all kinds of crazy stuff. I love drawing monsters. I love drawing characters, stylized characters. And it really kind of pushed the envelope for me. And now when I work with different clients, I'm able to adapt to whatever project they have for me, because I'm able to be versatile. So when clients come to me now, they expect me to adapt to their stuff, and I do very well. So I have a lot of fun. So now with this versatility, coming from an illustrator background, versatility has allowed me to take on projects that I want to work on, which not a lot of my friends get that option, right? They get to do whatever they're very special at. But for me, I'm able to work on scary monsters. You know what I mean? That's funny, because just a couple weeks ago, I was working on some scary monsters. And then at the same time, I have Disney princess stuff that I'm also doing. So it's kind of a weird dynamic, but my weeks are always interesting. And so when my friend lost his job, his portfolio wasn't ready for anything. It was just ready for movies. The problem is, if the movie industry is not hiring, where do you go from there? You know what I mean? So he had to restart his, and this is not the only friend. I've had a couple friends that have to redo a portfolio specifically for a genre that they've never been a part of. So the problem with that is that when you start working in different industries, or working in one specific industry, and that industry takes a dive, you're stuck. You don't know where to go. You don't know who to call. So when I was talking about that thread, you only have threads to the toy industry, and that's all you have. But if you have a thread in arcades, you have a thread in like Naughty Dog or any studios like that, you have now options as a web, right? So you want to definitely make sure that your versatility and your web of networking, as well as your growth, is all tidied up, because again, sometimes you're going to get a client that's going to need specific things, and you're not going to be able to perform that. You're going to say, hey, I got a friend of mine that does that. Now you lost out on that opportunity. So always have something in your back pocket. You know what I mean? And I always look at it like it's kind of like a supermarket, right? Like where you go to different aisles for different things. It's the same thing with my portfolio. When you go into my website and you go through my web, like you see character designs, you see vehicles, you see all kinds of different things. So whatever you feel you want to have me work on, you can check out what I've done in those categories. Now, I'm not saying that when you go to a studio, you show them everything you have in your book. That's not what I'm saying, because you definitely want to hone in on that particular of that studio, because they're going to hire you for that particular job. What I am saying, though, when you do have a website, make sure that you show a variety of different things that you can do, because you never know what they might be looking for. For example, when I was working at Spirit Halloween, I was given a task to design these monsters. And so with a graphic background, I was able to do that character from start to finish, where I would design his costume, I would design the graphics to go on his costume, and I would design the look of the characters. And so that gave me that kind of versatile style that allowed me to do all these crazy characters with them. And it's not always the case, but at least I know that I have that in my arsenal, that I don't have to give my projects to anybody else. I can take it from start to finish. So, and that goes for anything here. Like when I was giving the Killer Clowns from Outer Space, I was able to just say, okay, well, I like graffiti work. I like stylized characters. I'm a collector. I love toys. So I said, heck, I'm going to just combine all my know-hows, and I'm going to put it together and make something really great. So when we reached out to MGM was like, we don't have any style guides for you guys. So I was like, well, I'll do it. And so then I created these characters, and we ended up doing an entire style guide out of it, and we were awarded for best, licensee of the year. So this kind of gives you that idea of versatility. So now if I didn't know graphics, or I didn't know character designs, and I didn't know, this graffiti style or even the stylization of characters, this probably wouldn't have existed, And so I was given the task. I rose to it because I knew that this is a fun thing for me, and I figured, why not put this in my book? This is going to look great in my portfolio. And then all the product that was developed was, again, using that versatility mindset. Now, when it comes to versatility, all I can say is that you want to make sure that that you allow yourself to grow in these things. It's going to take time, because we don't all know every single style, and I'm not expecting everybody to, nor do the companies. But you should take a little bit of time to make sure you develop at least 2 or 3 other things that you can do, so you can widen your network, you can widen your offerings, right? Because if you have one particular style, like for me, I was drawing vehicles for a long time, and everybody would just be, oh, Carlos can draw vehicles, and that was it. And then I was just hired to do vehicle stuff, and I was like, I don't like vehicles, but I knew I was doing that for such a long time that I needed to change it up because I didn't want to be known for that. So when I was doing the Halloween stuff, again, I was told, oh yeah, Carlos does monsters and monsters and monsters, and I just like, I don't like that. So again, I don't want to be pigeonholed to anything like that. So what I did was I actually switched up my portfolio and I kept changing. So every year I evolved to something new, and that's something I do on the side too as well. So it's really fun. But I would encourage you guys for sure to just look into making your portfolios a little bit more versatile. Offer yourselves to other industries. Go to conventions. Go out, if you got a chance to go overseas, and really like get to know people in other industries, because you don't want to pigeonhole yourself in the industry that you're at if you're not planning to grow in it. If you do, that's great. But if you're just there in the toy world, make sure you learn about other things in the toy world. You know what I mean? Learn about the manufacturing side of things. Ask if you can travel. You know what I mean? Don't just stay in one particular area. And again, it's great to see friends that I ran into today that have expanded their growth in those companies, which is really good to see, because you don't want to be stuck in the same position all the time. It does get a little boring and mundane, and you don't want to do that. So with the characters, designs, and all the things that you get to do what makes you happy. Do stuff that you enjoy doing, because that's what's going to shine through in your portfolio. It's going to shine through in your interviews, even in your social media presence. The last thing I'll say too is like, I'm going to touch on this subject just a little bit, because this is probably a topic for next year, but AI is a big topic right now that everybody's kind of like nervous about and stuff. But the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because it's starting to be a normal, right? I've seen a lot of my clients, I've lost work to AI, right? I've seen that, and clients are starting to be a little bit more about efficiency, right? So they want to do a little bit more of quickness. They want things right away. So I've been seeing some like sales teams and marketing teams now are starting to use AI. And now I've seen just in recent times where a team of sales and marketing are putting decks together, art decks, presentation decks to customers, and it kind of shakes me a little bit and think that that's coming. That's already here, and even customers are now starting to okay that. They're okaying those type of things, and so it's a little scary to know that. But again, being versatile allows you to adapt to that. So I have two camps that are on my side that are for AI and not AI. So I'm kind of caught in the middle of that, because we have to do what's right for the customer, and again, their efficiency has to rule here. So I would say that when you're using AI, be obviously responsible with it, but at the same time, like for example, I'll use it for, if let's say that mallet in the back or the finger of one of the clowns doesn't look right, I'll just prompt it to do some other pose for me, and then I move it on, I send it to the team, and then they go ahead and make the adjustments. That's how I use AI on my side. I'm not afraid of AI one bit. I think that it's useful. It's a great tool. I know that a lot of people use it. A lot of people are kind of ashamed to come out and be like, I use it. I don't care. I do. I don't prompt it to create my own art. I can do my own art. I don't need to prove to anybody I can draw. I can do it myself. But it now becomes about efficiency. It becomes about how do you properly use it in a form that is productive for your team, productive for your company, and also efficient for your customers as well. So I would just say to whoever uses it, just be responsible with it, because it could be pretty much the killer of your creativity, because at that point you become lazy, you rely on it, and then you become very, very like, your whole work and your portfolio just becomes an AI project, and you don't want that in your book. You want your stuff to look like it's made by you, for your customers, with human care and human capabilities. You know what I mean? So I would definitely encourage you guys to definitely, again, just try to use it for the proper uses. So last I wanted to tell you guys is, for the last minutes that I have, I'm going to be on the yellow couches there right after this. If you have any questions about anything, I wish I could go into deeper talks about some of these things. But I think for next year, I think AI will be a different topic. I think it's gonna be a very, very interesting topic. But you're gonna see that a lot more in the coming years. In the next 5 years, I guarantee you're gonna see your whole social platforms are gonna be flooded with AI. Everything's gonna be flooded with that, and I think it's gonna be kind of scary to see where we're going in 5 years. So prepare yourself for it. Don't be scared of it. Enjoy it, embrace it, but at the same time, be responsible for it with it. So I'm going to have a couple of my books. This is called Nomadic Volume 1. For the first 5 people, you can see Andy raising her hand over there. I'm going to just give away 5 of them. I only brought 5, sorry. But if you come over and hang out, I'll give you one of them. It's pretty cool. So thanks again for your time, guys. Appreciate it.